Hey, Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to the Storytime series. I try to do these story times around one time per week. So if you have a story about colorism, texturism, featureism, or pretty girl problems, please be sure to email exoticalsunited@gmail.com because now it's our turn to share our side of the story. But this girl says, "Hey, Exoticals United. I have an unambiguous black woman cousin who I grew up with close during childhood and teenage years. She was always competitive towards me about everything. During our teens, she would always find out who I was dating through social media and would pursue them and every man that was after me. It's like she wanted my sloppy seconds. This behavior is not normal. And when I cut her off, she would send me birthday and Christmas gifts through a relative to give it to me. She was always obsessed with me and my life. She would copy my hairstyle, clothes, bedroom decor, car, and everything, down to the man who dated me or was after me. An ex-friend seemed to always be upset whenever I experienced sexual harassment, treated like a piece of meat or men in the hood trying to pimp me out. I don't know why she desired to be seen as a sex symbol or want to experience these things. What is the psychology of this? Her and her sister tried to set me up at a cookout, but my discernment is strong and I knew it was a setup because the week before I was with them and she was asking me what's my favorite drink with a sinister look on her face. Her eyes turned round, big, and black like a demon possessed her. So scary. It literally gives me goosebumps when I tell this story. I shared these particular stories because I would like to know the psychology behind women who are categorized as unattractive, the desire to be essayed, pimped out, seen as a sex symbol, and the sad part is these women do not understand the mental and emotional draining because of these experiences. It's like not a big deal to them, which is disgusting. Thank you for your time and reading my story. I hope you can do a video on this type of behavior and the psychological reasons. So let's talk about the first sentence here. She's always competitive about me, or she's always competitive towards me about everything. So the psychology behind a woman who's competitive with you about everything, you are her standard. That's why she's competing. She's trying to meet the standard, which is you. You're her beauty standard. We've talked about this, like a lot of exoticals, we are the beauty standard. We're the standard of dating, and we're the standard of living. This is why you see people obsessed with who exoticals are dating. They're obsessed with who Lori Harvey is dating. They're obsessed with what our careers are like. You know, they were comparing Doechii to Ice Spice. They were saying, oh, well, Ice Spice didn't win an award and Doechii did win an award. So we are the standard of success. We are the standard of living. We're the standard of beauty. And so that's why you see a lot of women kind of mimicking us because they're hoping to level up. And I actually don't think there's anything wrong with looking up to someone or appreciating their beauty. But I think where a lot of women go wrong is they try to lie and pretend like you're basic. So they want to look like you, they want to be like you, but they don't want you to know your own worth and value. That's where I have the problem. Another part of the psychology of a woman who copies everything you do, she's copying you because she's hoping to attain the same privileges that you have. So she sees the pretty privilege that you're getting. She sees the thin privilege that you have. She sees the male gaze that you have or whatever it is. And so that's why she is utilizing your identity as a part of her social climbing strategy. That's how much of a pedestal you're actually placed on. Your identity in and of itself, your existence is a part of her social strategy. And then for the women who always try to find out who you're dating and then they pursue you, it's the same reason. It's because you are their standard of dating. So it makes her feel good to know that she can attract the same type of man that you attracted. So this happens to us a lot because we know that as pretty girls, we are the ones that have the quote unquote status. And so this is why you'll actually see a lot of pretty women kind of keep their dating life more private because we already know that as soon as we say, oh, I like Johnny, oh, I like Scott, oh, I'm dating this guy, then suddenly that man becomes like a walking golden statue. He becomes like a Greek god at that point because all of the women who were jealous and like waiting in the woodworks, then they are like, oh, wow, there must be something special about that guy if she's dating him. So these women, they will have no interest in that guy whatsoever. But as soon as they see that you went on a date with him, as soon as they see that he's pursuing you or that you guys are communicating, you may not even be sleeping with a guy. You could just be friends with him or something, or maybe he likes you and you don't even know. But suddenly, this man has social status in her eyes. So he has a pedestal now because he's associated with you. And that's a part of how you know you have a pedestal. If people get clout just by hanging out with you, if people are getting clout just by being associated with you, that means you have a pedestal. This is why a lot of people tell pretty women to be selective with who we're dating and like, don't just give your time to dusties and stuff, because you are actually increasing the status of people who associate with you. And she said, it's like she wanted my sloppy seconds. And another reason too that some women will kind of go after your sloppy seconds, quote unquote, is because they're hoping that other people will see like, oh, okay, she was with Johnny too, or she was with Scott too. So they're hoping that like they will receive the same level of status. Like, oh, okay, he slept with her, but he also slept with me. So I'm on the same level as her. A lot of women who are extremely male-centered, they view their self-esteem based on if they can sleep with the same man as a mixed woman. They want to be able to sleep with the same man that a light-skinned woman sleeps with. I really feel like a part of the pedestal of both MLS men and women is people want to be able to sleep with the person that the pedestalized person would have slept with. They want to be able to say, oh yeah, I had him too, or I slept with that person as well. So it makes them feel like they're on level playing field with you. Because once again, you're their standard. You are their standard of sexuality. You're their standard of sex. So you are literally directing their sexuality. They won't even be attracted to a guy until they find out you're attracted to him. Then suddenly that guy becomes hot. So you are literally, they're centering their sexuality around you because you are their internalized standard of being sexy. You are their internalized standard of sexiness. This is why a lot of people, they obsess over our lives. They obsess over who we're sleeping with. They obsess over who we're dating. And like, oh, did you fuck this guy? Are you a 304? You slept with him? How many times? They're so obsessed with who we're sleeping with. They'll be starting rumors. Some people will actually lie and say they've slept with us when they haven't, because they know that associating with you sexually is a form of social status. So that's the psychology behind that. And then with this girl cutting her off and then sending her birthday and Christmas gifts, like she's trying to bribe you back into her life. She knows that she messed up. So she's hoping that by giving you gifts that you can get back with her in terms of friendship. Like she's hoping you can become her friend again. She's hoping you'll hang out with her again because she would rather still have proximity to you. Have you ever noticed that when you're the popular girl, when you're the valuable one, when you're the one that brings more to the table in terms of friendships, in terms of social status, etc., as soon as you cut them off, they get hella offended. This is why people use that phrase, you don't speak to nobody. Well, it's because your presence, your social presence matters more. Your social presence carries more weight. So when you cut these people off, they can feel it because they're no longer going to the fancy parties because they don't get invited to fancy parties on their own. They don't get male attention when they're by themselves. They don't get a lot of friends when they're by themselves. They only get those things when they're with you. So their life is increased by hanging out with you. So that's why when you as the pretty girl, when you as the privileged exotical, when you cut them off, they get super mad. When you walk past them and don't say hi, they get super pissed off because they want your validation more. Your validation matters more than the average person because in their minds, you matter more than the average person. You are on the pedestal. So by you complimenting them or by you hanging out with them, you are essentially increasing their privilege. And then she says that she was always obsessed with me in my life. She would copy my hairstyle, clothes, bedroom decor, car, and everything, down to the man who dated me or was after me. So that part, copying your clothes, your bedroom decor, and your car, that's kind of a form of destiny swapping. I've noticed a lot of women who lack a sense of identity within themselves. They want to try to be in your skin. They want to be in your shoes. They want to try to manifest your life. That's actually like a manifestation tactic. They're attempting to manifest the same pedestal as you, manifest the same life as you by getting all of these items that you had. So it's almost like this form of witchcraft or something. For those of you who believe in that, it's almost like a subconscious form of witchcraft. They think that by driving the same car as the pretty girl, by having the same bedroom decor, by having the same dorm room, having the same outfits, shopping at the same places, that she will somehow be able to kind of manifest this lifestyle that you have. So at that point, they are now doing spiritual actions. They're trying to get all of these items and charms. That's essentially what they're doing. They're getting the same car as you because they now view that car as being magical because you had that car. So they feel like having that car somehow must contribute to a pedestal. So it's almost like everything you touch becomes this spiritually charged item because, they have this subconscious, almost superstitious belief that, you are kind of more spiritually elevated because a lot of people are very spiritual, whether they realize it or not. And so they're almost spiritualizing and deifying you. And so that's why you'll see them copying the clothes, the bedroom decor, the house, the furniture. Like I've seen women copy furniture of other people, or like they copy their exact neighborhood they live in. They try to switch careers to be in the same career as some other woman. So that's actually like their form of manifestation. And this girl also said that her friend was jealous of like her being SA'd or men in the hood trying to pimp her out. That's because that friend, she is so used to being invisible. She feels so like worthless. She literally ties a sense of self-worth to being SA'd. She feels like if you are SA'd, that means you're desirable. If you have people trying to pimp you out in the hood, that means that your body can literally make money. So it's still a compliment. That's how she views it. So even being treated cheaply or being treated like a piece of meat, that would still be an upgrade for her in terms of self-esteem. So that's why she's literally jealous of you being SA'd, or she's jealous of people trying to pimp you out because she thinks it's a flex. It's a flex that men want to SA you. It's a flex that men want to pimp you out. That's how warped her mindset is. That is how attention starved and validation starved she is. So these types of women, they're attention starved, they're validation starved, usually they're touch starved, and they're kind of like sexually starved, if that makes sense. So these are women who have this extreme pick-me mindset. They have this external locus of control. So they're trying to get validation in whatever ways they can. So even if the only form of validation is sexualization, that's still better than nothing. It's still better than being invisible. And you see this a lot. You see this culturally with certain groups of women where they feel like at least having men look at my ass, that is still a compliment because he's not looking at my face because my face isn't pretty enough, but hopefully my butt is pretty enough. So why don't I just throw my ass in a circle in a random restaurant so this guy can give me attention? It's better than no attention at all. That's what that mindset is. It's a scarcity mindset. Male attention in her life is so scarce to the point where she views it as a compliment that you got SA'd. She's jealous that men want to pimp you out and they don't want to pimp her out because they think she's not pretty enough to even be a prostitute. So she's actually taking it as an insult. You know the women that feel insulted when they don't get catcalled? That's what I'm talking about. She's that type of girl. And then she said that her friends asked her what her favorite drink was, like with a sinister look on her face, and she felt like they were trying to set her up, like they were trying to maybe drug her or try to use her or try to set her up to be SA'd. A few of you guys have talked about that happening to you, like friends setting you up to be SA'd, friends setting you up to get robbed or setting you up to get jumped. So what they will do is they want to get you in a vulnerable position. So they view you as being naturally stronger than them. They view you as being more spiritually powerful than them. So they'll try to drug you or do something like that to make you finally vulnerable because they feel like that's the only way they can have control is if you are under the influence. This is why you see a lot of people who want to pressure the pretty girl to drink. They want to pressure the pretty girl to smoke. I've actually had people tell me they don't trust people who don't drink or smoke. Why not? Well, it's because they don't have the vulnerability of being drunk and kind of stumbling around and having their judgment being impaired or not being able to function. So for some people, getting you into a vulnerable state, that's what they want because that's the only time they feel more powerful over you is when you are actually drunk, when you're incoherent, when you've been drugged, when you are not your normal self. That's what makes them feel powerful. That's what makes them feel like you're finally on their level now. Because they feel that way all the time. They have bad judgment all the time without being drunk. They can't function normally at all, whether they're high or sober. So they want you to feel the same way. That's why they're potentially trying to put stuff in your drink. And she said she wants to know the psychology behind women who are categorized as unattractive. The desire to be seen as a sex symbol. Yeah, that's because to them, being the pretty girl or being the one on the pedestal, that's just a dream. They've never experienced it. They've never lived their life as a pretty girl. They've never lived their life and been pedestalized by black men, by white men, by whatever type of man, or, been pedestalized in society. They didn't grow up seeing their image in the media. They didn't grow up with friends and family members calling them beautiful from a young age. They've never experienced it. So that's why a lot of them feel like, oh, it must not be that bad. The dark side must not be that bad. And I mean, I will agree that when it comes to privilege, like generally speaking, the dark side does not outweigh the positive side. That's why it's called a privilege. But those women, they're actually using a bad social climbing strategy, because instead of them just changing themselves to meet their own internal beauty standard, they'd rather try to destroy other women because it's easier. It's easier to destroy you than to look within and pinpoint all of the ugly things about myself and then work on changing those. No, it's easier for me to just sit around and talk shit. It's culturally acceptable to talk shit about privileged people. It's culturally acceptable to tear down and to antagonize anyone that has a privilege that you don't have. So that's why they have this behavior. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.